So how do we pay for that? Because that's a lot of money, right? I think we'll all agree that's a lot of money. Obviously, private pay is where some of our families end up, especially at first if it's just a little bit of companion care or in-home care. Even when we get to personal care or assisted living, unless you or your spouse was a veteran that qualifies for a program called Aid in Attendance, that assisted living level care is also going to be private pay. But there are some veterans benefits to take advantage of. Okay. Some of our clients, believe it or not, have some very good long-term care insurance policies. I will tell you, we don't recommend getting them now, the policies now, just because, long story short, they're typically use it or lose it, right? And we find that premiums will continue to increase and or the services that they cover will decrease over time. And it just is very expensive for most of our clients to maintain long-term care insurance. But we still do have people that have policies from years ago that are actually very good. So we will take that into consideration in our planning if there is long-term care insurance available. But I will tell you, if you're looking into long-term care insurance, we have a better way to look into long-term care insurance rather than this, like I said, use it or lose it type policies. Then there's Medicare and Medicaid, and we're going to talk about those on the next few slides because there is a big difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Okay, they're apples and oranges. And when I say a big difference, it really are two totally different programs. Medicare was introduced in 1965. The idea was rehabilitation. So if you think about it, if someone has a slip and fall, ends up in the hospital for a short amount of time, and now they need to go to rehab. It's often in a skilled rehab facility, right? They work you real hard, which is awesome because that typically means a better recovery, but it's not designed for long-term illnesses, okay? Could Medicare cover extended long-term care events? No, not extended. Short-term care, 100 days max in a skilled facility for rehabilitation. And I will tell you, the rehab facility will have to report to Medicare. And if you are not progressing from a rehab perspective, they will stop paying. Okay. So Medicare, typically what we've seen is there's reporting every week about how the person is progressing. And if they have hit a ceiling where they're no longer progressing in the rehab facility, Medicare is going to, discharge plans will start. Okay. And then, this talks about the first 20 days is typically, I will tell you, not only are you, if you're not progressing, but it is not typical that we see Medicare covering more than 20 days, unless that person really does need it and they are progressing. Versus, so that was Medicare, rehab, think short-term rehab. Medicaid is a little bit different. It is it's a federal program that the states run. Each state runs a little bit differently that pays for healthcare services. I'm going to call it Medicaid because that's what everyone knows it by, but technically in Pennsylvania, it's called medical assistance. And most people needing long-term care eventually qualify for Medicaid. A lot of times, if they've done no planning, certainly there are people out there that would qualify tomorrow, right? And they should, have those services paid for them. But we have many other people that don't realize that there are ways to protect assets. And so they will spend down all of their money until they go broke. The most that someone on Medicaid is allowed to keep is either, and this is dependent on your income, is $8,000 or $2,400. Everything else, with the exception of, exempt assets, which we'll talk a little bit about, has to be spent down on care. About 2/3 of the people that are in nursing homes right now are receiving some sort of Medicaid benefits. So what I need you to think about, though, is Medicaid likely will cover you for long-term care, right? But it is skilled care in a nursing home only. We can't get this benefit for assisted living. It's likely Medicaid, unfortunately, is likely going to be a semi-private room. Um, Now, there are home and community-based services that could provide in-home care in limited circumstances. We had been, and especially pre-COVID, we had been seeing families receive approval for 24-hour in-home care. Um, Not often, but they were being approved. Almost impossible to get that now between staffing, and that's primarily the issue is staffing. They It's much easier for them to just pay for you to be in a facility than manage the staffing of in-home care.